Scottish Football Social Club is brought to you by McBookie.com. Take a lookie at McBookie today.
Hello everybody, welcome along to another episode of the Scottish Football Social Club here on Premier Sports in association with McBookie. We appreciate their sponsorship. It's episode 4 and there have been a lot of big talking points over the weekend and I think we've got all bases covered. Johan Mjällby is back with us. Alan Hutton is here. Michael Stewart hopefully is about to rejoin us in a second. He's had a bit of a disaster with his Wi-Fi so far. I think it's right to say then we've got a big Swede on. And I was going to say a couple of turnips, but maybe just one in the bottom left-hand corner there.
That's the best he's looked. That's the best he's looked.
You're spot on. Listen, hopefully he'll rejoin us in just a moment. But there's only one place to start anyway, as it happens. And that's it. Oh, he's back. You okay, Michael?
He's got Wi-Fi problems.
I don't even think he's got the speaker on yet. I'm not even sure he knows. Well, this is the beauty when you're live on YouTube and live in X. He's just staring at the camera and we're up and running. Listen, let's just keep on chatting. If he joins us, he joins us. Right, straight into Celtic 3, Rangers 0. Johan, let's go to you first because your old team were outstanding in the fixture. They cruised through the game after the first 10 to 15 minutes. And in fairness, it could have been and probably should have been more than 3.
Yeah, definitely. It was nothing that rattled them. They were stronger, they were fitter, they were sharper in all departments. Obviously, we all know that goals are always going to change games, and by them obviously getting the first goal, it was all over for me, more or less. But the way they attack is brilliant. Even if obviously I can't fault any of the defenders, but it was great goals all over. They look so sharp going forward, and I love the way they it's not all about possession. The first thought in the player's head is always look forward. Try to obviously play behind the Rangers team and obviously do the trademark, third man running and use the inside channels. But it worked a treat. They looked so much stronger. They were superior on the day and it looked fantastic.
What a start to the season Cal McGregor's had as well, scoring goals. I know that one's deflected, but he scored some beauties this season and it was another clean strike anyway when it came off the boot. They just look like such a well-organised, well-oiled machine at the moment, Johan, and they just carried on from the pre-season tour when everybody seemed to be fit and ready to go. There's been some good recruitment, it seems, as well. Celtic, do you agree or do you believe, Johan, are a team that perhaps will go from strength to strength this season?
Oh, no, they will. I'm quite certain about it. I think, obviously, last season we could fault them a wee bit, because they weren't playing the best football, until maybe the last 2-3 months of the season. But from day one, like you said, in pre-season they've been absolutely brilliant and they've been playing great football. But I think obviously, it's a loss losing O'Reilly, but 27 million or whatever it is, and now signing a few really, really good, not only squad players, but players that are going to do well in domestically and in Europe and Champions League. This team looks really, really sharp and strong for me, and I think they have a good chance even in the Champions League. With the 4 home games, especially.
Yeah, the Champions League draw doesn't look too bad at all. I thought it might be Alan actually starting tonight with the camera off. I thought he'd be behind the sofa, but it was Michael.
I know, that's how I watched the game. I was like that, watching it, if I'm totally honest.
I think, Michael, can you hear us again? Are you back with us?
I'm back, yes, yeah.
Good. Well, we've not heard from Alan yet, so let's go to him next because there's all the positivity surrounding Celtic, and rightly so, Alan. But in Rangers, the other side of it, the negativity you heard from some of the fans back at Ibrox after the game as well, that now surrounds the club, and it's going all the way back to the pre-season for them as well, with the stadium issues. Now, that's rolled on. That's a domino effect as well. Where do you see the club as it stands right now? Do you think they're a team that can improve with this squad this season and get a lot better? Or are you worried about the quality you're seeing in the pitch right now?
Well, I hope they can get better. I mean, that's the main thing. I think they're weaker. They're a weaker team this year than they were last, with experienced players that have left. I don't think they've been replaced. Yes, he's brought new recruits in, some young players, a little bit of experience. But on that performance on Sunday, there's so many levels between the two teams, and it's only going to get wider for me. I mean, of course, you can look at Celtic, and they were outstanding at times. They ripped Rangers open at will. But from a Rangers point of view, just basics, just doing the basics right. I mean, you look at the goals, all 3 of them, if you're on top of your game, you could maybe block, if you're aware of likes of Maeda, James Tavernier always has a tough game against them. Swivel, you can see as a defender. I just don't see where they're going at this time. And we mentioned it last weekend that I feel that this is going to be a rocky season for Rangers, no matter what they do from now. I hope they do and can improve. But I think it's going to be very up and down. It's whether the fans can deal with that and get on board with it, because this rinse and repeat every year can't keep going on. They need to stick with somebody and try and move forward with it.
If you remember last week, Alan, we were talking about a lack of leadership in the team. That seemed to be evident again. What about desire? Because that's been questioned after this match. And if you start questioning desire and effort, then that's an all-time low, isn't it, for a football club? Did you see a lack of passion and desire from some of the players?
Unfortunately, yes. You'd have to say that. I mean, at least, I'm only thinking when I was playing games, and look, there was times where Celtic ran over the top of us, but I would have ran through a brick wall. I know that for a fact, even if we were getting beat, if I had to tackle somebody, run back, whatever it is, I don't see that enough. And it does go back to getting rid of experienced players. Who's your leaders there? Who are you leaning on? I know there's a lot of change in there. Tavernier has to bear a lot of that on his shoulders. At times fair, at times unfair, I think. But you're spot on. When you look at that team, there wasn't enough fight for me. And that's the one thing that you need a lot of, especially going away to play at Celtic Park.
I'm going to come back to Celtic in just a moment. Michael, I'm going to come back to Celtic in just a moment. But just one other thing, Alan, I just wanted to ask you about was the reaction from some of the fans. Look, I know there weren't thousands of Rangers fans back at Ibrox, but apparently Philip Clement, when he came off the bus and a few fans were shouting at him and Tavernier and others, apparently Clement sort of gestured to them that there was only 4 attempts each side, something like that, almost saying they weren't that far off it. Now, I think the fans are getting worried about some of the excuses, and maybe there's an element of delusion that Rangers aren't that far away from Celtic, from the management team. Do you worry about that? Do you think that's evident?
Yeah, I do worry about it a little bit, to be fair, because it's there for everybody to see. They are far off it. But I understand Philippe Clement trying to protect his team. He's always going, he's the manager of the club. He has to protect them no matter what. But I don't agree with that. Like, I get the fans are frustrated and different things, but turning up and screaming and shouting and swearing and bawling at the team, I don't think that's going to help. I understand there's frustration there. But yeah, I think when you talk about the manager, he's trying to get his points across where he does need time. And we know you don't get it. I totally understand that. But this is going to be a difficult season for me, especially on that viewing the other day. And it's whether he gets the time or not. Because as we see with the fans and the reaction, you're not going to get it. Michael?
Well, just echoing what Alan's saying there, and it's all well and good talking about, and I think most Rangers-minded folk realise that they are pretty far off of Celtic, and it's not just the quality. I think you guys touching on the fact that the lack of leadership, that's massive, because if you've got some real leaders in there that can, roll the sleeves up and graft, you can start to sort of bridge a gap to a certain extent. But when that's lacking and the quality's lacking, all the troubles that are surrounding the club with the stadium, it just feels like everything's engulfing the club at the moment in terms of negativity and struggle. But it's all well and good fans talking about they know that the club and the team are miles off of Celtic. They actually have to behave in that way to a certain extent and give a bit of time. Now, I know that's extremely difficult, and I know the world we live in, that's probably pie in the sky sort of stuff. But if they don't, then it literally is, as Alan said, turns into rinse and repeat every year. And that is just not sustainable. It can't continue like that. Rangers need to be putting foundations in place just now for them to try and build over the next 2 or 3 years. Otherwise, they are going to be eternally trying to bridge a gap that's never going to actually materialise.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, Michael, trying to, even if they wanted to move on from this manager, who they just gave a new contract to, the costs that would come at, perhaps that's a cost that the football club right now can't foot. They need to concentrate on improving the playing squad, not getting rid of another manager, perhaps, although results will clearly dictate. Let's talk the recruitment then side of it as well, because there's a huge difference between the two teams there, Johan. Do you like what Celtic did at the end of the window? Of course, losing Matt O'Reilly, you've mentioned, is a blow, but to bring in players like Arne Engels, who got his Old Firm debut as well, to bed players like that in, it looks like everyone now behind the scenes at the club is together and building the depth chart, if you like, at the football club.
Yeah, listen, I think it's a very settled score now. I think I was quite impressed by obviously the work they did because it's always hard. Yeah, obviously you get we're going to splash the cash now we got from Matt O'Reilly, but it's not that easy because that's in the bracket where you know the 10 million bracket. It's never a guarantee that it's going to be a hit because you know what play costs nowadays. You know, sometimes it's a bit ridiculous. You know, but I do think Arne Engels is going to settle in. He's going to be steady there for them. It's a bonus though as well, because it's going to put a lot of competition about the place as well. And you can see obviously Bernardo, I think he rose to the occasion yesterday and, played one of his best games, for Celtic in an important game anyway for the club. So I think it's, you have competition for places, you can have competition, in the defense as well, and obviously attacking wise, it's so many different options for Brendan Rodgers. So I think he's right now is quite relaxed, and he see a team and a squad that's obviously brimming with confidence and could have a good chance to do well, not only domestically but hopefully in Europe as well.
Well, that's the next challenge, isn't it, Johan? Because you look, apart from Engels, the other players that come in, clearly Luke McCowan's another option in midfield. We saw him at the weekend. But Austin Trusty, another centre-half in the building, a versatile player as well. Alex Vaya as well, a left-back. Maybe they're left-back, but also you have to say the way the current left-back's playing is outstanding too. Both full-backs were excellent for Celtic at the weekend. But do you think there's enough quality in defence to take on some of the best teams in the Champions League and stop them, which maybe has been a problem for Celtic in recent years?
I know. I mean, we can't question Cameron Wickers. He's a stalwart. He's obviously the leader, and I think he was, he was superb yesterday. Obviously, albeit the Rangers play not giving him, much trouble, to be fair. But even Liam Scaves, who I can maybe can be in and out, when it comes to games, and I'm not always been sure about him when it comes to the highest level, and that where I count obviously Champions League. Now he seems, I thought he was very good yesterday, did everything right, but obviously he feels, he needs to play well now because the competition is there, and Trusty, even if Trusty is not maybe the most known name when it comes to Celtic defenders in the world, he played 34 Premiership games last season, so, he can't be too bad.
What about the Rangers defence, Alan, in the match? Because clearly they weren't very good at times, but Robin Prooper is a player who's going to have to deliver for Rangers this season, and he looked all over the place at times. And then you've got a stalwart like Leon Balogun, who's performed very well in these fixtures in the past, and he's on the bench.
Yeah, well, the managers normally, he's went back to Balogun because he is quicker. He's got that pace, the recovery pace. Well, I'm not saying lightning, but he's faster than the other ones that they've got on the books at this moment in time. But I've looked at Prooper. They brought him in. He was meant to be a leader, a captain, everything, ticking all the boxes. Look, it's going to take him time, I think, to get up to speed. I don't think you can judge him off a couple of games. But if you look at definitely two of the goals, I'm thinking he slips over, right, okay, can happen to anyone. But the second one was probably more worrying for me. I think somebody who's decisive and knows what they want to do, they go out and engage. Jeffrey's coming in and covering that run of Kuhn. I don't think he has to drop. He actually opens up the whole goal for him to go and hit. So those are worrying signs. And the difference for me is Celtic knew where they had to strengthen and they went and done it. Competition, left back, centre half, midfield, striker. They went and done it. I just feel towards the end of this window, Rangers have kind of hit the panic button a little bit. We need to get people in. We need somebody to come in or the fans aren't going to be happy. And that's kind of what they've done. They've tried to replace the experienced players that have went out. And I just feel at this moment in time, hopefully I'm wrong, I just feel at this moment in time, it's a weaker squad.
They did get Ned.
There's no question that Rangers are a weaker squad than they were last season. But again, I go back to the point of, and I don't disagree with anything Alan said there, that it does certainly feel like there's a lack of strategy in terms of where do they need to strengthen. It just seems a little bit ad hoc and scattergun, whereas, again, totally spot on with Celtic. The one position I would say about Celtic, though, when you're talking about the Champions League, that I'm still not 100% sure about is I don't think they've ever really, they haven't replaced Jota. And I think somebody that's in that wide area, that's that little bit of an X factor and somebody that's almost a make something happen out of nothing. I'm not sure that they've got that at the moment. Whereas Engels, even the little bit that we saw yesterday, he looks like a really nice cultured player. And I agree 100% with Johan. I thought that was Bernardo's best game by a mile for Celtic because last season, I've got to be honest, I was surprised that Celtic went so long trying to get the deal done permanently, because I thought he was okay. But from what I saw yesterday, you start to say to yourself, well, it's a good bit of business, because he certainly looked like he's got the attributes in that game yesterday to develop even more. So the one position is just that wide man that Jota, if they'd got him back on loan, then I think they would have been in a very good position to go and make a real fist of the Champions League.
Nicholas Kuhn started well, but Michael, it remains to be seen how much he can excel in the Champions League. That's obviously going to be the acid test for him. They obviously brought him in for the big occasion. Let's see if he can perform. Alan, I don't know if you noticed the question at the bottom of the screen just a couple of minutes ago there.
No, never.
I noticed that.
I pretended I just covered it up like that when I seen it.
But I think it's a merited question, though.
See, if we're being honest.
Because Rangers, why are they focusing on Celtic? Celtic is so far ahead. They need to just focus on starting winning, getting a balanced team, and then maybe, because obviously we had other teams now breathing down their necks.
Johan, honestly, right, so when I first seen Hearts, the first game of the season, I said to everybody, I said to Michael, I said to Moss, this could be a problem this year, because I knew Rangers were going to have an up and down season. Now I've seen the likes of Aberdeen, who's 9 for 9 in all competitions. The way Jimmy Thelin got his team playing, I know we'll go on to that, but wasn't their best performance, but they're still finding a way to win. You've got Celtic, who I think at this moment in time are running away from everybody. So yeah, why not? I mean, it's probably better. It's good for Scottish football that we're talking this way, and it's not just to run away for it. I like the fact that there's more competition. Only helps Scottish football. So
look, you're right. There needs to be a strong league, obviously just for European games as well. And
God's sake!
I'm not convincing anybody else.
I'm trying to be honest here. I'm trying to be honest.
And I saw Royston with a little follow-up comment. He's now buttering you up, pal. Anyway,
I know. What?
Why don't we just move? I'll spare you. Let's just move on, because you mentioned the Dons and Jimmy Thelin, your fellow countryman, Johan. What a start he's had with Aberdeen so far. Another late winner. That was live in Premier Sports at the weekend. But just tell me about the reaction back home. And did you have an expectation? You obviously know a lot about him. You followed his career. Did you have an expectation that he would come over and really excel in Scottish football?
First of all, when it happened, I was really, obviously I was chuffed to bits for him, because it was a lot of talk of him. It's a lot of Swedish managers that are obviously doing well in Sweden for 1, 2, 3 years, and then they go either to Norwegian or Danish league, but they never look really further ahead, because obviously they're probably not attractive enough for any of the big leagues. So I, when I heard that he was going to sign for Aberdeen, I was, over the moon, because obviously he's done very well in Sweden, especially with Elfsborg. The way he plays, he's not really possession-based. Yes, obviously he wants his team to have possession, but he likes to attack quickly, to play quite direct as well, and it should suit a sleeping giant like Aberdeen, because obviously, I've been perplexed for many years to Aberdeen. Aberdeen is a club we should always be top 4. Let's make it clear, So I've always been, really surprised. So this is, for me, it's been like a win-win situation taking over a club like Aberdeen. Yes, you can fail, but it's a hell of a chance for Jimmy Thelin to make a mark in Scottish football, definitely, and he's doing really well.
Yeah, and of course the transfer window is always going to be so important. He's brought in some players that he knows, like Topi Keskinen and others, Johan. That's going to help him moving forwards too. Losing Miovski, never going to be great for any club, especially a Scottish club like Aberdeen who relied so much on him. But getting Kevin Nesbitt in, a player you've seen a lot in the past, Johan, and him announcing himself back in the Scottish scene with that late winner, that could be huge, couldn't it?
Is that Rob?
Definitely.
Is that what?
Nisbet. It's no Rab C. Nesbitt. It's Kevin Nisbet.
Did I give him the Nesbitt treatment there, or the other way around? I don't know. What do you think, Johan? Anyway, a good bit of business.
Yeah, but the thing is, you got the feel-good factor, and they show character as well. Obviously scoring so late in the game, and obviously this is just going to build confidence. I think they're going to be, difficult to deal with after obviously the national team break. So with Nisbet, he knows the league. He's always been a goal scorer. So, and he's hungry to obviously show people now that, listen, I'm still a good player.
Michael, Alan, you were there at the weekend. Alan, that goal at the end and it coming so late in the game as well. It's just the feel-good factor. We heard from Jimmy Thelin on the show last week. You heard himself, the enthusiasm he's got for football and for Aberdeen right now. But that just keeps on going now because of that late winner.
No, what I really liked, that he wasn't happy to sit back and just take a draw. I mean, the substitutions he made, he threw everybody on, he threw everything at them. Shayden Morris comes on, the pace that he's got, great little pick out. There's actually a little step over, and then it's just a really nice finish. But they've found a way to win, and that's the most impressive thing. I totally agree with what Johan says. They're not really possession based. They want to make little traps in midfield and jump on and play through the lines really quick, get it wide. But that wasn't really happening for them. But they found a way, and that's the most impressive thing.
The fans at the end, the scenes were pretty amazing.
I was hiding. I was getting dogs abuse, by the way. I don't know why. I left years ago and I'm still getting it off the fans. So there was a little kind of metal box and they all started running on and I went, oh no, I better hide because I was getting slaughtered. So I'm like ducking in behind this metal bit, just staying out the way.
Once a Rangers player, when you're back at Aberdeen.
Oh, I know. I was just being nice and happy in that and thought I'd get along with everybody, but no, it didn't work out that way.
I was at the back of the stand. I was pointing to them, telling them they were hiding.
He's over there hiding.
Michael, the scenes are amazing. I mean, you think you're only 4 league games into the season, though, but I mean, the fans, they believe now.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a great sort of story that's evolving there at Aberdeen, and I like to see folk that take a bit of a risk and are positive in their approach, getting the benefit and getting things going their way. And certainly, as Johan's already sort of spoken about in terms of the way that Thelin likes to set up, and Alan was mentioning there as well, the substitutions. This is a guy who wants to go and attack the opposition. He's not somebody that's just trying to park the bus and be difficult to beat. And I like seeing that. I like that personally. So I think it's only good for the game that you see Aberdeen flying at the moment. He's got a clear identity, a clear strategy, and he's been able to implement that pretty quickly. And by the way, it's not just as if it's like a huge turnover of players. He's brought in a few good additions to the team. I think Topi Keskinen is absolutely spot on for what he's looking at. Every time he gets the ball, he's wanting to go and commit the opposition, which, again, great to see. But he's utilising boys that were there and, truth be told, their bum was out the window. There was no chance of them getting an opportunity. Now, they're getting that opportunity and they're really grabbing it with both hands.
I just wondered if they might bring another player in late in the window because it's gone so well to begin with. But maybe the budget's been spent. Anyway, that ship has sailed. I tell you what else is about to sail. It's Johan Mjällby. I promised him we'd only keep him on for 15 minutes. And I see it says 23 minutes in the clock. He's got dinner plans. Johan, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us again. Really
pleasure. I'm going to go for a glass of wine now.
Enjoy.
Thanks, Johan. We'll see you again very soon. Right, we'll kick on. Right, we're talking about a positive story. Should we talk about the other side of it, Michael? You were at Tynecastle, weren't you? Dundee United and the negativity. It's a word I've used a few times in the show already, but there's a certain factor that's going on there at the moment. And a defeat to Dundee United at home, and what's that, 9 in a row now without wins. That is not good at all.
I thought you were sticking with the positives. It's very positive for Dundee United.
Well, I was going to come to Dundee United, but I felt as if...
We'll get there. 3 wins in a row, brilliant. I bet he just wants to get right in about Hearts. So, Michael, take it away.
Joe Allen, I thought it was only right to start on them. Roth Graham.
That's true.
This isn't an Alan Hutton-like finish. It's a trundler.
Yeah, well, listen, there's either 2 things that could happen. It's going to trundle in or it's going to hit row Z. So I would be quite proud of that one, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
So
it's a goal. It's a goal. And look,
a goal.
It was a goal that sickened the home crowd, Michael.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, look, Hearts were better in the first half. I've got to say, first of all, try and look upon the positives. They were better. They looked like they had a more settled structure. They went to a back 4, and it was by no means brilliant. And it wasn't as if you're looking at it and going, "This is the team to go ahead in the future," because Kingsley's playing right back. He's not a right back. Oda is out on the right-hand side, Vargas on the left-hand side. It brings that balance and that pace, but the problem is, and we've already mentioned this at length, the end product is 0. So as much as it gives better balance to the team, this was my concern. As the transfer window was getting closed, there's the club the coaching staff, I'm not sure they actually recognised what was needed. And now the window's closed, they get to that system, utilising those players, but they didn't recruit any better. So they're really stuck with what they've got. It's not great. 6 defeats in a row. It's worse than the 5 defeats in a row that Robbie Nielsen suffered, and he was shown the door. And by the way, Robbie Nielsen, 2 of those games, the first 2 games were Celtic back-to-back. Then it was Aberdeen away and Kilmarnock away, and then St Mirren at home. That's not the easiest to run a form. Whereas for Hearts, granted, 2 of those games have been against Pilsen in the Europa League playoff, but we saw them. They were not the greatest, but there's been some domestic games there that really not great. Start of the season, new contract for the coaching team, and it feels as if things have just been in reverse from that moment on after the first game of the season, and it can't continue.
Yeah, I always wonder, and I'm not just saying this now, Michael, you'll attest to this. I did question at the time, giving a manager a new contract right at the start of a campaign. I think it was it just after the Rangers game, the draw against Rangers, maybe just before. But either way, you always wonder, if you're desperate to keep a manager, now unless there's been a tough contract negotiation, why not get it done earlier during the summer? Why wait to the start of the season? You're almost asking for something to go wrong afterwards. And anyway,
it's kind of building on pressure. It just seems that way. Like Rangers done the exact same thing, really, as well. So like it's not worked. And maybe they seen what I seen. Hearts doing well in the first game of the season and thought, let's tie him down. But from the outside looking in, I'm just thinking, we've done a few of the games, so he's changing formation, he's changing personnel, he's as if he's trying to find something, and it's just not working at this moment in time. I know Michael knows a lot more than I do when it comes to Hearts, but that's just the way it feels, and he's just scratching around, trying to kind of fall on top of something, and it's not really working at this moment. He's only scored 2 goals. We spoke about Shanklin last season. Where would he be without his goals? He scored 2 goals all season. Like, that's a big worry.
Yeah,
Michael.
I thought Alan was just going to leave it at before he said about Hearts.
Yeah. The sponsor.
I trust you, Michael.
The sponsor of this show is McBookie, and the sack race. It's never nice talking about managers and might get sacked. We know that, but it is part of the job. And the sack race, the odds, if you like, the most likely manager to go next, so 2-1 on that it's Stephen Naismith at the moment, Michael. And it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because there was a lot of enthusiasm last season at the football club. This is a team who are still in Europe, and that Conference League group doesn't look too bad. But if they're playing the way they're playing now, then they're not going to get many points on the board. So what can change now, Michael, and what should change?
Good question. I mean, what can change? What the first thing is, they need to settle on a structure and a system that they're going to play with, and they need to stick with that for a bit, because this constant flitting between back 4, back 5, back 3, no, especially at the moment where confidence shot. They need to get back to basics, and that was what they tried to do yesterday against Dundee United to a great extent. And they need to just basically work their backsides off in terms of running through phases of play, getting players confident in terms of where they are in the park and what options they've got. And then they've just got to hope, to a certain extent, that something falls their way and they can get a victory. But all of this is on the head of the coaching team, because I was saying it after the first game, even against Rangers, this is an imbalanced squad. And as much as there's quality there, if they don't rectify that imbalance, they're going to squander the quality that they've got. And that, unfortunately, is looking like how it's panning out at the moment.
But Michael Naisy even mentioned, sorry, Darrell, that confidence is an issue. I mean, it's such an early stage, and you could tell the way he was saying it, like he was really down about it. So it's like, basically you said, pick a formation that you want to move forward, drill it into them, go back to basics, do the basics well, and then build on that when the confidence grows. But that was a worry for me.
Just the final one, Michael. I mean, are you basically saying there, the answer to the last question, are you basically saying that the clock is ticking, and if it doesn't turn around in the next couple of matches, and the next one's a tough one, as you know, Celtic, isn't it? If it doesn't turn around in the next 2 or 3 matches, are you saying that is the time they have to make a change?
Well, Darrell, that's just inevitable with football. Like, 6 defeats in a row, they've no won in 9, and they've got Celtic away, St Mirren away, I think it's Kilmarnock at home, and Aberdeen away. I think that's the next 4 fixtures before the next international break. That's not easy. And
no, it's not easy reading that.
And unfortunately, if they don't pick up some results in there, then it's going to be a very, very tough decision for the board.
But I shouldn't move on from that game without mentioning Dundee United again, because you'll both give me pelters next week if I don't do that. Alan, for a team that's just come back into the league and for a team that's brought in several new players as well, they look really well set up, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. I think Jim Goodwin's done excellent. He's picked a formation. We're talking about formations here, I know, but he's picked a 3-4-3, and it's really worked with the players that he's brought in, Babunski, Trapanovsky. These are guys that are really kind of excelling and taking them to the next level, because it was going to be difficult coming up. You know it's going to be hard, but look, they've had a good start and they can now build on that. So, yeah, decent start so far.
Excellent start. Let's rattle through some of the other games, because I don't know if you know, Michael, but they've made this into a podcast as well. So we are watching highlights for anyone that's just listening in their headphones right now. We're actually watching some of the games play through here. And I don't want to keep those people forever. They might be on the bus or on the train on the way home, maybe in the car, Michael. So let's not keep them too much longer. Let's give them a few more good minutes, Michael, right? Let's move on to Kilmarnock Hibs, 2 teams who are desperate for a victory, and it looked like your old club Hibs were going to get 3 points in this game again, and it fell apart at the end. But they did look better going forwards, I think, Hibs this week.
Yeah, they did. I mean, I was hearing a bit of chat about this in terms of Joe Newell was going for the goal. For me,
no chance. No chance. That's a cross.
He's good enough.
He's trying to whip that to the back post area,
yeah,
you know, and it's nestled in the top corner. But that's the sort of thing I'm talking about with Hearts, in terms of hoping that something goes their way once they've got a structure in place. It went Hibs' way, looked as if they were going to be able to hold on and get the 3 points, but ultimately they conceded the penalty late on. And I don't think there's any qualms about it. It's definitely
it's
a penalty.
Clumsy, isn't it? It's just clumsy. Like, just put the brakes on. He doesn't even really make a tackle, but again, giving away a late goal. I think it was at Dundee they played last week, give away a late goal, Simon Murray. Something that they need to get rid of their game if they want to try and push up the league, because it has been a difficult start.
Yeah, big goal that for Kilmarnock as well, of course. Difficult start, juggling European football, and they were so close in that regard. Let's move on to Dundee St Mirren, which was a really good game. Alan, by the way, loads of chances, goals as well, which you expect from Dundee games now. But these two, to me, look like 2 teams.
Just go and win the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. But these 2 teams look like 2 teams who are also well organised, who've recruited well, 2 good managers in charge.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there was some really good goals in this game. Tony Dock, I don't think is going to be happy with the defending. Portales needs to go and win the ball. There was one Larkesh, poor clearance. That's a great finish by Main. I mean, lovely, just little dink over the goalkeeper. But again, good start. Dundee unbeaten. We've seen them live. I was really impressed. How are they going to transition from McCowan leaving? That'll be interesting. But again, St Mirren, you know how they're going to play. They've got Olasani up front, who's a big powerhouse. Mondrian scores an excellent goal. We're just going to watch it in a minute. But yeah, 2 teams that I really enjoy watching, and hopefully they can do well this year.
Michael, we know Dundee are going to score goals. I guess it's the other side of it. Can they keep enough out to really amass a lot of points this season again? But either way, they look strong, don't they, in the early part of this campaign?
They do. I mean, Alan's touched on the fact that obviously Luke McCowan going is the one real question mark about, you know, how are they going to be able to react to that. This is obviously the first game. But over the course of the season, how are they going to be able to replace who is, you know, a fantastic player and was their captain as well? But the collective at Dundee is good. I think, you know, Tony Docherty is taking it to management like a duck to water with this, and they've got a good, strong squad. They've recruited well again. Simon Murray, because when you looked at Dundee last season, up front was really the one area that you felt they're lacking a wee bit. Whereas Simon Murray coming in, it sort of plugs that gap to a great extent. And Curtis Main's there as an alternative as well. So I think they're very good. And St Mirren is just a continuation. They're very well organised, a clear identity of what they're trying to do. And they maximise, you know, the resources in terms of whether it's financial or players, what I mean, what they've got to a great extent punching above their weight and challenging at the top end of the table. So I've got no worries about either of those sides. They're both very, very good organised teams.
And you're right, Luke McCowan. Of course, he's going to be a loss. He's an excellent player for Dundee, but other players like Lyle Cameron can step up. The spotlight's going to be on them. He's played really well, and there's other players that have played excellently well as well in midfield for them. And for St Mirren, Kevin Van Veen coming in at the deadline, so they've got another option as well if they can get him fit and going. Well, let's move on to the Steelmen, who we were praising on the show last week, Michael. Another 3 points, a late winner for them too against St Johnstone. Now, they waited a few weeks of the season before they gave their manager a new contract, and it looks like it might work out for Motherwell.
Yeah, and it's a big win, obviously very late on, and by all accounts, the St Johnstone supporters weren't the best pleased with the Motherwell commentator. I don't know if you've managed to see that online.
I did.
No, I've never seen it.
He's had a lot worse, Michael, to be fair, haven't you? I mean, mild.
Oh, is that what? All right, he was getting shouted at for the fans. Is that it?
Oh,
I think I maybe read it in the paper.
Johnson fan was telling him that his microphone was going to disappear somewhere.
And it was live. That's brilliant. I'm going to need to go and listen to that.
So, I mean, look, scoring late on, of course, it's great. It's brilliant. And, for Motherwell, you now look at it and you go like, well, what a bright start to the season they've had. And Stuart Kettle was another one that, when you're talking about the likes of Tony Docherty at Dundee and Stephen Robinson at St Mirren, guys that not working with massive resources, but they maximise what they've got, and they look like they've got in their head a clear strategy of what they're looking to do. And it's, I was unsure about Motherwell for a simple reason, like the previous season, when you lose Van Veen, you're thinking, how are they going to replace it? And then this season, obviously, Blair Spittle and Theo Bair have gone, how do they replace that? But, Mawanisi, the white man they've brought in, looks really effective. And they look like a team that are capable of steering clear of trouble and knocking on the door of the top six as well.
Yeah, on loan from Leicester, he does look like a really good acquisition. We're almost out of time. Just a final one. Should we just briefly look ahead to the Scotland games? Alan, wasn't great during the Euros. No. I heard John McGinn saying earlier today that he's still not over that. Neither am I, by the way, quite frankly. But Poland at home, Portugal away. What chance do you give them with the squad that's been selected, the players that Steve Clarke has at hand now?
Yeah, there's some new faces in the squad. I quite like that. A little bit of freshness coming into the ranks. You still get the core group. Look, it's going to be difficult games. There's no getting away from that. You're in the top group. But I think for Scotland to get to the next level, when we talk about they've not done well in the Euros, done well to get there, but not actually there. So they need to play these teams, whether it's a little bit of kind of fright that's in them or whatever it may be, they need to go over that, play these games, hopefully do well. So when these big tournaments come round, you're ready. But I think the freshness will help the people kind of just lift them a little bit.
There's still a few injuries and obviously no Callum McGregor moving forwards either, which doesn't help. And still key players out injured who are missing at the Euros, obviously, as well. Steve Clarke finally spoke. He hadn't for a while. He went away and regrouped and probably thought about what happened during the summer. And then when some of the journalists were pressing him on his own thoughts and expectations, he didn't want to say an awful lot. And I think that maybe upset a few of the fans. What do you think about what eventually he did say about the Euros campaign and his own feelings that he can take this team on again?
Who's that for? Me?
Sorry. I thought you froze again. I thought your internet went off again.
Yeah. Look, I've got to be honest. I think his assessment was fair enough, but it was, there's only so much you could say before the tournament. But we were saying it ourselves that the momentum was lacking. It was difficult to be able to turn it around. Some key players weren't at the top of their game. And some injuries then happened when we were there. These are sort of things that I find it difficult to criticise the manager about because there's not a great deal he could do about it. I do like to see Ryan Gold coming into the squad because he falls into that category of a wee bit of an X factor that perhaps we've been missing or lacking. The same as obviously Ben Doak that was in the squad and then had to drop out because injury. An element of speed, pace that we don't have a lot of. So I like the fact that he's, perhaps looking at that, and I'm a wee bit disappointed that maybe we didn't look at it for the Euros. But No, I'm very much on board with Steve Clarke. I'm not going to criticise too much because I don't think there's a. You can debate and argue about, for example, putting Lon Shankland up top in the tournament. I get that. It's a valid debate to be had. But would that have been the difference maker? I'm not sure. I tell you what would have been a difference maker. The officials getting a flaming penalty call, right? Like Stuart Armstrong getting wiped out. That would have made a difference.
He's still looking for a club, isn't he? Which is remarkable. Anyway, listen.
Remarkable.
That's for another day. We are well out of time, well beyond. Alan, Michael, thank you very much. We'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.
The Scottish Football Social Club is brought to you by McBookie.com. Take a lookie at McBookie today.